You're not going to believe this. Health Canada just admitted something that they have ignored for years. Canadian men and boys are in serious trouble. After a decade of being told masculinity is the problem, the health agency is now launching a men and boys health strategy. But here's the question. Will they actually fix anything or just repackage the same narrative that got us here in the first place? Let's dig in. Health Canada is finally noticing that not only do Canadian men and boys exist, but they're launching a big fancy men and boys health strategy. They're inviting questionnaires and written briefs by June 1st, 2026, and they admit some hard truths in that document. Men die younger, 80 years versus 84 for women, and they have higher rates of premature death, suicide, and get this, 70% of all opioid-related deaths nationwide are men. They even point out that young men aged 15 to 24 have watched their mental health collapse in recent years. The percentage saying that their mental health is very good or excellent dropped from 70% to 52% in just 10 years. The last decade of liberal ruin where men have been told that their masculinity is toxic, and people like holier-than-thou former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau have championed this narrative while pushing policies that sideline boys and men.
We all know how much damage the patriarchy has done to women over the past generations. It is now astonishingly clear how much damage the patriarchy is doing to young men.
When institutions, media, and leaders frame traditional male traits like stoicism, competitiveness, risk-taking, and provider instincts as inherently problematic and even toxic, it alienates young men, leaving them feeling purposeless or ashamed of their nature, rather than channeling their masculinity into something productive. Trudeau's brand of performative feminism and identity politics have amplified that, and you can see it playing out in this data. Issues like boys falling behind in school and male suicide rates still being 3 to 4 times higher than female counterparts, and in some areas they're lagging in education and workforce outcomes. Of course, the issue is multifaceted, and youth especially have been hard hit the last 5+ years. The government's pandemic response, which relentlessly damaged mental health. Then there's the increased use of anxiety and depression inducing social media for youth. There's a decline in two-parent homes, and economic stagnation impacts are huge, with youth unemployment reaching record levels. But the cultural war happening on boys ignores how meaning and identity shape mental health.
As our young people have a quarter-century high in their unemployment, Mark Carney this year is expected to bring in a record number of temporary foreign workers to take the jobs of Canadian youth, driving down our kids' wages and their ability to earn a living. So while he drives up the cost of housing, preventing them from owning homes, he drives down their wages by allowing greedy multinational corporations to bring in low-wage foreign workers that take away Canadian jobs, including in high unemployment regions of this country.
With mood disorders and anxiety spiking on paper, Health Canada's latest men and boys health strategy makes it sound like they're finally waking up, until you read how they want to fix it. They want to challenge harmful stereotypes about traditional masculinity. They want to amplify positive examples of masculinity. They want us to have conversations about how boys and men can overcome stigma and feel comfortable asking for help. It's classic government speak. Blame toxic masculinity, hand out these questionnaires, and then pretend that the problem is just that boys need to be softer instead of the opposite. They need to have meaning, purpose, and clear pathways to succeed, not just messaging about how to feel, but real-world chances to contribute, build skills, and be valued. Yet what do we see playing out in Canada instead? Well, we have a government so desperate to be inclusive that they mandated tampons and menstrual products in men's bathrooms across every federal workplace and even Parliament Hill back in 2023. While young men are literally dying in the streets from fentanyl, Trudeau's priority was making sure biological males who identify as women have pads in the men's room. That's where the government's urgency is, not saving the boys who are overdosing. Their own stats admit that the overwhelming majority of opioid deaths are young males. And then, of course, there's DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion policies that are laser focused on every group except one: young, straight, white males. They're now the most disadvantaged group in Canadian universities in hiring. Some postings even explicitly ban white males from applying. In university admissions, you name it. Boys are falling behind in school, dropping out, checking out, and the government's answer is still more equity programs that deliberately leave them behind. Real support for boys and men would mean celebrating strong, competent masculinity, not pathologizing it. And maybe address the affordability crisis, the housing shortage, access to stable work, the breakdown of community, and the lack of accessible mental health and addiction services, the actual social determinants of health that shape whether young men thrive or fall through the cracks, instead of chasing symbolic policies that look good on paper but don't actually change any outcomes. It's funny how there's always just money lying around, like the $200 million earmarked since 2018 for menstrual equity projects, with the majority of it apparently heading overseas, all in the name of tackling period poverty. Priorities, right? Canadian boys and men are in crisis, and when they're struggling, the effects don't stay contained. Those pressures ripple outward, shaping the well-being of girls, women, and entire families who rely on stable, supported, and engaged men in their lives. Ultimately, that ricochet effect ends up impacting the health of communities as a whole. The data's right there in Health Canada's own document. The question is whether the government has the guts to do anything real about it, or whether this is just another expensive exercise in pretending they care. Drop your thoughts below and share this if it hits home as it does for me as a mother of young boys. Let's actually fight for our young men before it's too late. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. It's time to clean up our streets, tackle the opioid crisis with real treatment, not enablement, and get out of the way of economic growth. Strong communities need action, accountability, and leadership that delivers results. Let's fix what's broken and move forward together. Visit fixourcities.com for more on topics just like this and sign our petition there. If you agree, it's time to fix our cities at fixourcities.com.